Hi, I've come today to talk to you about a serious problem in our neighborhoods. Cars.
Yeah, okay.
Cars clearly break the trademark created by Disney, Walt Disney Corporation on the name Cars for the movie Cars about cars. Did you know that the person who created the name Cars for the movie about cars called Cars was paid maybe like $1 million or something? What an awesome thing. Now back to Kaido with whatever the fuck he wants to talk about, because he's a little bitch. Haha.
Is this a statement? Like each of us talk about how COVID has fucked our lives up.
My sister died.
Damn. My sister got a divorce. I don't know if that's related to COVID. My niece might have an ear infection, but that's also not because of COVID. Nobody I know has COVID. The fuck are you doing, Kaido? I was out for like a couple months straight, and that really sucked. That got me pretty depressed. And with high school, I got to finish early, and I passed all my classes, and I was hyped. And I feel like if virus didn't happen, I might have failed math. So I passed with like a 65.
I guess I didn't think much of COVID. I thought it would just be an isolated incident over there in Asia, but it turns out it wasn't.
Yeah.
And the moment that I first wore a mask to school, because I was like worried because I heard it was coming in quickly. So I just wore it one day and I was like, I was ready. Sir, there's nothing for me to hide because I eventually spill it out one moment or another.
Are you gay?
Well, yeah.
Does your mom know you're gay?
Well, pretty much. Why else do you think I'm in SCS for? Like, something I need to look hard for because everyone that was here, like, doing stuff and my teacher is teaching me how to be a Marxist and to legalize weed. My mom was, like, so worried about them radicalizing me and such. I'm over here
like, don't get so political.
And the prison system, healthcare for all, and so on, you know.
Question.
Yes.
So presidential candidate Kaido Wolf. If we end the prison system, where do we put our prisoners? Or people who commit crimes?
Well, we're going to find out the cause of, like, you know, for them doing crime, we're going to put money into organizations and government assistance to help them before they start going to the wrong path.
Of course, that's where the money from the prison systems are going, perhaps. But what do we do if someone commits a crime? I said that's what we're going to be doing, not what we are doing.
Rehabilitation, trying to understand the root cause of why they did it. See what we can do about them, and see if they can be a good functioning member of society. I'm not much of a political candidate because I'm usually the one who's going, hey, let's start a riot.
What if they can re-enter society as a functioning person and still, what do we, like, are they not going to be punished for the crime that they commit?
Well, they're gonna, some people will say incarceration, but that's not really helping them at all because they're just locking them away. It's not helping them.
I mean, how about if you take a look at Norway, they have like humane, like humane
Norway, Sweden. They have great prisons that, you know, let the prisoners kind of roam free.
And then they have like the lower crime rates.
They care about each other, and yeah, they help them rehabilitate within a prison system so that they can re-enter society.
The thing about
those two things don't have to be separate. And the main reason the prisons are so unethical is because they're owned by companies rather than the government, who can profit off of the basically slave labor.
But we're just trying to see, like, we don't want them to be resisting. We don't want them to say, hey, we're gonna fight back because we don't like this. Yeah, I understand that you don't like it, but we gotta find a way for you to get back into society. Well, might just adopt the Norway system because it's like civilization, but it's also helping them cope and understand their issues. So once they get out, they're they're ready to go. It's like education.
It seems that you believe prison is quite the extreme thing. In reality, it's not. It doesn't have to be hell. There are prisons in the world that are definitely between like the Norway system that they have and our system, where it's just, you know, you hold the people there because they committed a crime.
And also take away the rights to voting, which is another thing.
Yeah, taking away the right to vote is definitely wrong, especially if they're going to be released within the time that this president's going to be in term. They should be able to vote at least a little bit.
Well, I say that first,
if some people are maybe mentally impaired to the point of like
they're just
being
not
psychotic, first of all, they shouldn't be in a prison in the first place. They should be in a mental ward or hospital. But
when you say it like that, it sounds bad. Mental ward. Yeah, what's the history of it? It makes it sound bad.
Right, but you can take that word back. It doesn't have to be bad. It's a good place.
Just basically reclaiming it.
People.
I watched enough Nick Crowley videos to see this ward was used for horrible things, we might as well give it a new name.
Psychiatric hospitals, basically.
Yeah, like
Very
that's
much.
the new term for it, but it's basically the same process.
The current prisoners, so we can look at, we can see their offenses. There's some offenses that were like petty and stupid as fuck, like weed. Really, you're just in prison for smoking weed while this guy just shot up someone
Doing
else?
something illegal, yeah.
Well, we can just say that with aid are just...
And there's nothing about being impoverished that could force you. Smoking weed is more often than not a completely voluntary process.
Well, yes, I
You
understand.
volunteer to break the law at the time. There are things like stealing or even manslaughter that can be involuntary due to situations that are outside of your control, like poverty or being cornered by someone else. Why do they deserve?
Well, that's one part that I don't understand yet, since I don't really study the system of the law and such.
That's understandable. If this isn't your point of focus or a place that you're very taught about, like don't know a whole bunch about, we can move on to something else, like legalizing weed and marijuana. Why do you want to do that?
We can do
Also,
that.
like the racial tendency, like between like black and white, like if you're like person of color, you're more likely to be searched in your car than you being white.
That's exactly true.
Pretty much.
Stop and frisk laws mostly target African American teens, and a lot of the time sentences are different based on sex and gender and race.
Well, yeah, we're working off old racist laws that we refuse to change.
I mean, take a look like with the lynching law. It took 130 years for it to pass, and it's been denied multiple times, and it wasn't placed or
Enacted.
enacted until like last year or 2019. I
And
forgot.
that definitely speaks volumes for about how racist laws are treated in America. Although I think that you could also make the argument that people who lynch people are still going to be punished as murderers at the very least, because they did murder somebody.
Most of them tend to be conservatives, and they just follow up their little ancestral bullshit that they bring up.
I mean, there was like the longest filibuster was like 1 day, and that was towards why the Civil Rights Act. It was this conservative talking about, and an entire day. He took an entire day and doing a filibuster talking about why this law shouldn't be passed. And of course, a filibuster means you have the floor, you get to talk all you want.
If it's a law that brings negativity, then it needs to be changed into something that brings into a positive nature.
But the thing
What
is,
negative
like
aspect
how.
does it bring? Like, they're breaking a law like anything else. Is that the negative aspect you're talking about changing? In which case, can that be a slippery slope to changing other laws that are actually hurtful?
Really like the political machine.
Yeah, are we talking about specifically legalizing marijuana or more drugs?
We just know that marijuana is the only one that has no issues when it comes to fatality and issues of the health, unlike tobacco and such and such. Those bring issues, but those are legal. Yeah, we have no reported cases of any deaths by marijuana smoking. Although they do recommend, if you are to smoke, if it's a legal state, they say to do it around in your 20s. There's like a certain age, because if you smoke it a bit too early, you might have a brink of brain shrinkage.
So
You're just
there
not ready
are
yet.
negative side effects.
Well, yes, it depends on your body maturing.
So much like alcohol, instead of just, we could legalize it outright, but restrict it by age.
Yeah, we could restrict it by age. Everyone follows the age laws, because there's some people who have easy access to a wine cellar or something like that, their parents' wine cabinet or whatever.
The government won't care if someone breaks a age restriction, as long as there are people of age around, or as long as they're keeping it responsible. Because that's where the danger comes. Getting extremely intoxicated is terrible for you. It'll hurt your liver, it'll hurt your brain, and it could possibly even just hurt your body if you do something stupid enough while you're basically blacked out and moving. Breathe marijuana, on the other hand, doesn't have that effect. Maybe if you smoke it too strong, I'm not sure about the science behind marijuana. Why does that mean that we should legalize it? Just because it doesn't harm anybody doesn't mean that we should legalize it.
Well, it doesn't harm anyone, but people who use it, they tend to have an anxiety decrease, stress goes down, it just causes them to have complications with fatalities and such, unlike opioids, who people abuse when they're stressed and such, and that is killing people. It's, I believe we had a crisis about it, and nobody ever brought up the weed. Weed doesn't kill. So why are opioids legal if
Opioids are legal, but
But
they're
they're-
regulated by
the government?
like, even if we legalize it, it doesn't mean that it's spread out to everyone and has free access to it.
Plus, like the racial tendencies with weed, like why was it created in the first place? Because like
It was
there
like-
wasn't no law about weed
It was just fine.
until like some white politicians started connecting with like racial like
They made it
Especially,
racist.
yeah, especially towards like, oh, people from Mexico are smoking weed and turn them violent, and then he used like media.
And the main reason that America is against many different drugs is because we connected them to many different racial groups,
And we
such
kinda
as
still do.
cocaine with black people and marijuana with, honestly, everybody. And that's really what Ronald Reagan did. He connected drugs to people of color and said we're going to have a war on drugs while feeding drugs to low-income areas so that he could arrest them more easily and remove them.
Like that one politician, Donald Trump, who left 200.
Most of, if not like a good 90% of what Donald Trump did had a very negative impact on the
Pretty
world
much.
as we know it. However, that does feel like we're getting a little bit off topic.
Back onto the topic of weed, right?
Sir, why are you yelling?
Whisper.
Yes, that's much better for my ears.
Is this an ASMR?
Maybe. Please continue talking about the political issues that you would like fixed in Durham, North Carolina, or the United States as a whole. Should we get outside? Sir, why are you whispering?
Sir?
Can you speak up, son?
Yes! Shit. I need Miss Stefan at the moment. She's the one who can bring up the point.